In this video, we're going to build a page in HTML and PHP that is going to take a value or a record out of the MySQL database. We're going to allow the user to edit that record, and then we're going to save it back into the database. And there are quite a few moving parts in this, so this is probably one to watch slowly and take it slowly and take some stops along the way to test your code as you're writing it. So, first things first, if we look at this page, it's already getting this thing called ID that we are getting from the address. So if we jump over here and we have a look at that in action, we say detail.php and then it's got ID equals 1. Yep, the 1 will do fine, and then I'm just going to run that and that comes back without any error. So we are then going to hit the database and we're writing an SQL query where we're selecting everything from the table called customers, where the ID equals the value of that ID, and we're creating this variable called first, last, and age. So now we're going to go down to the part of the document which is the HTML, and we're going to create a form. So I'm going to create a form with a method of get. There we go. And of course I'm going to close that off. Form. I'm going to create myself in a button. Now let me just actually jump over, and I've got a page here open from W3 Schools, and I'm just going to have a look at it and remind myself how to create the button. Let's have a look at their code there. Submit, value, submit. Okay, so in actual fact I'm going to grab a couple of lines from there and just put it in and adapt it. So within my form, there we go. So input, type, text, ID. I'm not going to worry about ID for now. I am going to worry about name, because when it puts it back into the page, this is what its name is going to be. So its name is first and its value is there, and inside the talking marks I'm actually going to stop and I'm going to write a little bit of PHP. So it would help if I done that correctly. PHP echo first. There we go, and then I close off my little PHP tag. And that's got a line break after it. Terrific. And then I've got submit. Okay, well what I'm expecting now is that if I run that, it should actually bring me the name of the person and put it in the form for me. But let's have a look and see whether it works. There we go. There's Mallory, who's ID number 1. Let's see who ID number 50 is. Excellent. Okay, well that's working so far. I'm really pleased about that. And what I'm going to do is create another input type there. This one is also a text. This is going to be the last. And the value that it's going to have is using that little line of PHP to put in the value of last. There we go. And I'm going to do one more. This one is actually going to be number. And it's going to be age. There we go. So what I've got is a form that will actually bring in the information I've got and put it there. There we go. So they're there. They could do with some labels and stuff, but for now they'll do. This will function. So if I were to fill in that form, let's say I change her to being 81 and then I submit it, you'll see that first equals Ursula, last equals Ridgewell, and age equals 81. So we in fact have all of those things, although interestingly they are not showing up in the table. So what we need to do is we've got all of that happening, and then we're going to go back up to the PHP and we're going to ask it to watch out for information being posted. Now, I realized that in the form, I actually said that I was getting, but I'm actually going to use this thing called post, and I'll show you why I'm going to use post. The reason why I'm using post, and I'll actually just go back all the way to there, ID equals 1, or equals 19. There we go. That's all working, but then when I hit submit, it'll actually reload it as the page, but it won't be up there at the top so that the user can't interfere with that and change the values. I'm doing that as part of my validation strategy on this. So in line with that validation, your text field here can only take text. Your number field will have to be a number, and I'm actually going to make all of them required. So that way, if the user tries to hit submit without filling them in, then it's going to push them back. So let's just have a quick look at that. So they're all required. Let's just go up here and test it. Now there's a reason why I'm testing my code all the time, and that reason is because this is how we find our errors. So there we go. I'm going to take out 53 and then I'm going to try and submit it, and it'll tell me I have to put that in. Then when I've put it in, there we go. The submit worked. Well, the question is, how do I get the data now that it's been submitted? Well, let's have a quick look at this. There we go. So up here in the PHP, what I'm going to do is say if there is post, so $_post, if there is post of first. So basically, if it has received this value in post first, then it's going to do this stuff here. And for now, I'm just going to put a little message for myself that say this worked. Okay, there we go. So I go up to the page. I'm just going to reload it. There we go. Now I'm just going to submit that, and you'll see that it says this worked because it meant that it got that information through it being posted. Well, that's all well and good. So if it worked, what we actually want to do is we want to get these variables again here. So I'm actually going to steal them from that part and reuse it. So this time, first is not coming from the row out of the database, and I'm actually going to take all three of those out, and I'm going to get them out of the post information. And you'll see what I mean by that in a minute. So that equals, in fact we know this one, that's how we express that. It's very much like a get. It's the post that comes through with the value of first, and then the post with the value of last, and the post with the value of age. So now the form, because it's being produced after the script is run, should actually show the new values. It won't be saved anywhere, but it will be showing the new values. So let's have a quick look at it. There we go, there's Jody. Let's change her to being 55 when we hit submit. So this worked, and it's showing 55. Now that's not stored in the database, but at least it is coming back into the page with the new information. Let's just test that again. Let's say that Cody has changed the spelling of their name, and we hit submit. There we go. So the page is reloaded and it's got that new information. Okay, well, let's put it in the database. So this is still something that only happens if it's come in through the post. So we're going to have it in between those braces. Now, so we're going to need to make a query here, and this is where we're going to make our MySQL to update that record. So I'm actually just going to go, I'm going to take out these lines here with the while because I don't need it this time, because I'm just making a simple change to it. I don't actually need it to give me back rows of data. So I'm going to save that, and then I'm going to jump across to MySQL, and I'm going to have a look at that. So here I am in the PHP MyAdmin for MySQL. I'm going to have a look at my database here, and I'm going to go up to where you can write some SQL code and get it to help me with this. Well, I in fact want to update. So I'm updating customers. I'm setting the ID. Now I'm going to take that out because I actually don't need to set the ID. I'm never going to change that. However, I might be changing the first name to something else. I might be changing the last name to something else, and I might be changing the end to something else. And what I will be doing is I will in fact only be doing this where the ID equals something in particular. I'm just going to put 10 for now. So I'm going to copy all of that. The reason I'm doing it here is just to reduce my chance of making mistakes. So there we go. I paste that in. I've just realized that I have the wrong talking marks there. Paste that in. There we go. I've got my word wrap on. Now I'm going to run this. Now first, well, that would actually be the value of first, but there's something that I need to do before I do that. I actually need to make it so that this data is safe to put in my database, because there is a thing called a MySQL injection, which is a common form of hacking, and one of the ways that we can protect ourselves is by using this. Now I have a shortcut for this that I'm going to use. Okay, so this is the format of the thing we're going to use. We're going to take each variable, so I'm going to say that first2 equals MySQL real escape string, and that's how we clean the string to make it safe to put in our database. I'm using link, which is the name of my connection to my database. All of that would be in my connections at the top of the page. And what am I cleaning up? Well, I'm cleaning up first. So there you go, first is cleaned up. Then I'm going to clean up second, and then going to clean up age. Now, the age should be right because it's coming in as a number, but I think there's nothing to lose in terms of just cleaning it up, just as a precaution. So I'm going to have first two, last two, and age two. There we go. So now when I put them in my database, I'm actually going to put in those cleaned up values. So what will first equal? Well, first is going to equal $first2. There we go. Last is going to equal, well, I think you'll probably know what I'm going to say here. It's going to equal $last2. And age is going to equal $age2. And finally, where ID equals, well, we've got the ID from the get, where ID equals that. Now, if that works, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to produce a response. Oops, response would be better if it was spelt correctly. Response equals those values were saved. Oops. Why don't I just go for something nice and simple, updated. There we go. And down here in the code, just under the submit button, I'm going to have a little bit of PHP to show that value, which I think I just called it response. I did. Now, this probably won't work, but that's okay. I'm hoping it'll fail. Oh, it's actually telling me here I've got an error. Let's have a look at it. It is on line 31. There you go, response equals updated, and I forgot to close that line. That's where using a good IDE is particularly useful. All right, let's have a look at the page. So, I'm up here. I'm just going to load up that page. There we go. Let's make Cody 55 years old. Then I hit submit. Good, it came in and it said updated. So now I'm hoping that if I go back in, now Cody was record number 19. So let's have a look. Yep, it's okay with us. If we go to 19, Cody is in fact now 55 years old. And I'll prove to you that this works by running it one more time, although I certainly believe it works. We're going to change the spelling of Cody's name, and we're going to submit it. And you'll see not only does it appear on the page, but if I go back into the database, and I'm just going to go forward and back on that page, just so that I can see that value again. There we go, Cody on line 19 is now spelt with a Y. So we have been able to pull up that record, put it in a form, and let the user submit it. And then it was entered into the database, and we cleaned it up so that there wasn't any chance for somebody to use a SQL injection.